And you would say what? Because I think proposition B prohibits me from believing proposition A. So doubt is not primary. You have a belief. So if I say, okay, well, what about proposition, what did I say, B? Is that doubtable? Yes, it is doubtable. And so if you want to pursue doubt as a way to knowledge, you will end up being a skeptic. Because every doubt has about 1,001 children. Right? At some point you have to say, okay, I'm going to go this far and then I'm not going to doubt anymore. I'm going to accept this as a starting point. And I have these clues, these reasons, these evidences. See? And so you say, all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take this. And lo and behold, I now have driven in my pilings and I trust my pilings to build a structure. Okay? Now all thought systems are built that way. All thought systems begin with an act of faith, not of doubt. That's not true just about Christianity, it's true about any system. You can look at science, you can look at philosophy, you can look at history. You have to say, we're going to start here, and here, and here, and here. Now, can you prove those? No. But here are our evidences. We have these clues, these reasons why we believe it. See, and obviously you want to have good reasons for your presuppositions. You don't want to just pull them out of the sky. So those pilings, those presuppositions constitute what Michael Screven called primary philosophy. They are problems to which everyone has an answer whether he knows it or not, or to which everyone can understand whether he has tried or not. See? Another way of saying is that underneath every society are some givens. We don't ask a lot of questions about givens. See? And I might just throw in here, one of the interesting differences between culture today and culture 100 years ago is that cultures 100 years or 150 years ago were called background cultures. They had a lot of givens. There are still cultures like that. When you grow up, you don't have many decisions to make. If you're a young woman, the trajectory of your life is decided by your family and by your culture. If you're a young man, it's decided like that, and you don't get a lot of choices. See? Now, we have a foreground society where we have to make choices about everything. Any of you bought a cell phone recently? I went to buy one and I quit. I gave up. You know why I gave up? They threw so many options at me that I said, look, I said, I don't want even to say anymore. You know, there's this plan, there's that plan, there's this phone will do this. And, you know, the young guy was talking about 60 things in about 3 minutes. I said, ooh, I have a little feature phone that still flips open, and I'm okay with that for the time being. Anyway, it'll probably, in fact, it doesn't. Some messages, it's so old that there's some messages it won't receive, so I may have to update it, I don't know. But, you know, we get tired because so many decisions have to be made over and over again. What happened? So, notice here that even in Christian theology, we had to adopt presuppositions. The Christian theology has made extensive use of philosophy, including pagan philosophy, in developing and interpreting Christian revelations. And notice here that this gentleman pointed out that the influences of these foundational levels of philosophy are so profound and pervasive that nobody escapes them. So you already have adopted some presuppositions that you don't even know about that sit underneath your whole belief structure. See? So what you do or don't do is governed by ideas you believe that are produced by certain principles of interpretation which rest on foundational assumptions. Okay? I've gone down to those 4 levels now. We're down at the level of assumptions. So another way, I diagram it like this, okay? That what you do is embedded in what you believe, which is encompassed by principles of interpretation that you use, which is also nestled inside principles that govern your whole system. See? Now, this picture is a little bit deceiving because I should set it up as a foundation. Because what you do at the foundational level actually determines the options that you're going to have up through the rest of the system. Now, without going into a long description of things, there are the foundational areas are these. There's the presupposition of being, which asks you to think about what existence in its purest sense is like. We could spend quite a bit of time talking about this, but to help you understand this, being is like talking about the being part of human being. Can you explain the being part of human being? See, you can explain the human part, but what's the being part? See, and this is the most abstract philosophical category, the category of being. Very difficult to explain, but you can think about it. It's asking what is existence itself in its purest sense like. Particularly how does time affect that? We may come back a little bit. Metaphysics is a much easier one. It asks the question, is there anything beyond the physical world? Okay. Metaphysics, is there anything beyond? So you could say, it asks the question, is there a supernatural realm or only a natural realm? Right? Epistemology asks how you understand the process of knowing. There is actually a way in which human knowing takes place, and there are several different theories about that, and epistemology asks you about that. Ontology is the one that interests me the most in the last couple of years, how you envision reality to be organized, and we'll go over some of those here tonight. You'll have much better ideas of those. Then there's some secondary categories: anthropology, what you think a human being is; cosmology, how you think the universe itself is construed; and axiology, how you go about measuring right and wrong. I don't have time to talk about all of these, but look at this picture here. This was created by a friend of mine, and you don't have to worry about what's in the boxes. I'm just looking at the scheme of it. But the way a thought system is constructed, you have all these basic principles in here that expand out into presuppositions or postulations, which then create another layer of human thought, which then followed by another layer. And so our human thought systems all boil down to these central presuppositions, and then they expand, right? And depending on what you do at the foundational level, it determines what happens in the rest of it. Okay? So just, if you keep this kind of picture in mind, this could all be squished back down into that box, the yellow box, which is a thought system. If you open that, you have the presuppositions, and then it goes on, the implications just keep expanding. See? So, yeah, I think I already said this one here, the details. Now, I don't have time to talk about everything this weekend. I'm going to talk about ontology tonight, and then I'm going to talk about epistemology tomorrow afternoon, right? So I can only do two of these because they are fairly complicated in some ways. But ontology, it's the study of the nature of existence or being as such. It's a branch of metaphysics, I should say. The middle sentence is the best one. It has to do with how you think reality is construed. Right? So, in other words, if you think about reality, what would it look like? What kind of diagram would you give to it? And the truth is that in a religious world there are about 6 ontologies, and they are largely incompatible. They do not intermix very well. They are at odds with each other. And as we'll see here tonight, 3 of them are at war. And a lot of the cultural change that is occurring in our culture and the attitude toward religion are driven by ontological shift. Okay? So let's look at these ontologies, and they're kind of fun to look at. And when we look at them, let's keep in mind this question: what is the perceived pathway to human thriving? You know, all belief systems want human beings to do well, and they advocate for themselves as the best way for humans to do well. Doesn't matter which philosophy, if you're an atheist, if you're a Christian, if you're a Buddhist, everybody's saying if you do it our way, you will have the best life. Okay? So, the question as we go here, and the first ontology I represent this way. Okay? It's a random ontology. It's quite, you hear it quite a bit today, the idea that everything in the universe is organized randomly. Okay? That there is chance, luck, natural selection, whatever, the way we see things in the world today is merely by the result of good luck or bad luck, that even the origins of the earth and the human life and the way everything functions is by chance. Right? Now this raises a very interesting question about human responsibility. If we're here by chance alone, how is anybody responsible? I can just say, well, that's just how it is. See? This is an ontology. This ontology, by the way, is not sustainable because it won't pass its own test. right? When you start explaining this, you can't do it randomly. So you have to try and do it in a cohesive manner, otherwise, even the random ontology itself cannot be explained randomly, so it fails its own test. So this is actually an ontology that is somewhat escapist. This is a very unusual one that I gave it the name spiritualized ontology. It's the belief that that the real world is a spiritual, non-material world, that we are in essence spirits, and that our experience here on this earth is basically something like a dream. And that one day you're going to wake up and you'll discover that life on this planet was just a dream. It was not real. Okay? See? It only seems real. Now, have any of you had a dream that felt like it was real? And then you woke up? Yeah. That's what these people say, that the reality is, what we're experiencing here is an illusion. The reality is that we are all spirits and we have a separate existence, and one day we'll pop out of our dream and we'll be in the real. Okay? I think we all know about naturalism. The naturalism runs on the idea that the idea of the supernatural is an illusion. That this is all just talk that's left over from more primitive times when people were not smart as we are. We know a lot more, that we have checked around the universe. There's nothing other than the natural world, and so we conclude that that's all there is. Okay? So actually, this ontology would look like this. It's a half an ontology. No external forces allowed. It envisions a disinterested universe. There is no explanation of origins. I would argue that evolutionary theory is not a theory of origins, because it doesn't tell you what started everything. It only tells you what happened after things got started, or at least it argues for that. Okay, so and it relies on observation and experiment. I would argue it's too simplistic an explanation for the universe as we know it. The universe is too complex, there are too many clues that there's more going on than just the natural world. And so, if you want to take me to task for that, you may. Superstitious dualism, and these are my own names, I have never read about them, and this one is actually a very powerful ontology that exists, is very widespread in the world. Okay? And what it argues is that there is a supernatural realm that is populated by all kinds of spirits. Some of them are ancestor spirits, some are demonic, some are good. In some of them there is a great deity, a big god of some kind. And then there's the natural realm where people and humans live. There's a great fear in the natural world of the supernatural. In other words, the supernatural realm is deemed to be malevolent. It is scary. It is out to get you. And people who live under this ontology use magic and divination and various kinds of little rites and rituals and incantations to keep the spirits away. Right? I'm going to meddle here a little bit, because there are some Christians who live with this ontology. And I hope I'm not scaring any of you when I say that, many times in the Christian world we use prayer as if it was some kind of magic. Right? If I'm sick and I pray and I get 500 people to pray, that I have a better chance of getting well than if only 3 people pray, right? Or if I'm not getting what I want, I have many, many people pray as if it's a big wrench on the arm of God, and if we can get enough people hanging on it, his arm will twist and he'll deliver. See, we use prayer sometimes in magic ways. And we also think sometimes that by good behavior we'll make God like us. That God will be nice to us if we all behave like good boys and girls, that those are derivatives from this. Now, in the Western world, we refer to this as a primitive ontology. It comes from cultures that have high levels of superstition. I grew up in Africa. This is a prevailing ontology, and it's a very, very powerful one. In fact, there's increasing evidence that in Africa, even though Africa is becoming Christianized at a very rapid rate, that this ontology remains underneath. Okay, I heard once of an Adventist evangelist who went back to his village, and he found hanging by his door of his little house the talisman or the sign of the worst curse known in his culture, put there by the witch doctor. That man, without thinking, dashed off to the witch doctor with a substantial offering to have that removed. Okay? And only after he had done that did he realize that he really didn't believe in evil spirits. Okay? So, some of you will understand the power of this. In South America, and some of the native religions have this superstitious ontology. Okay? When you die, you join the spirit world, and the spirits can go back and forth between the supernatural world and the natural world. And, oftentimes people with this ontology are very afraid of the dark, because that's when the spirits come out. See? So, here's another one I call non-antagonistic dualism. Now, what I mean by that is that there are two realms here, and there's a supernatural realm and the natural realm, or you could say the supernatural realm and the created realm. Okay? And in this particular one, there's a creator who is good, who acts within time, is not subject to time, and he enjoys his creation. The natural world is good, it's not evil. It's good. The beings who live there have value.